There is a ton of valuable returns data that exists in Freight, but sometimes the specific integration or report that you need to make good business decisions might not exist natively in Freight. So your options are kind of submit a feature request or export a CSV file and try to do this work manually in Excel. Using Parabola's native Freight integration, you have a way to self-serve any kind of custom report, reconciliation, or alert, all without requiring any engineering resources on your end or Freight's end, using Parabola's Freight integration. Now, to give you a quick run through of how Parabola and this integration works, we get started in Parabola first by pulling in data from really wherever it exists in your stack. That could be something like Freight, it could be Shopify or Amazon Seller Central or NetSuite, or also 3PLs like ShipBob or ShipMonk. Once we've pulled in all of the data from your different tools, then we can start transforming it, doing things like filtering, building if-else logic, cleaning our data, and then ultimately we can send that data off wherever it needs to go, whether that is a Slack message, building a custom reporting workflow or dashboard, maybe we need to push data back into Shopify or NetSuite, really can get it wherever it needs to go. Now, in this specific workflow that we're looking at, we have data that lives in Freight, and we want to understand how long is the time period between when a return is initiated and when it's actually delivered back at our warehouse. In this example, we're getting started by pulling in some of our returns from Freight, and once we have all that data in Parabola, we then can start cleaning it, doing things like editing our columns, where we can, for instance, say, hey, I don't need all those columns, but actually, let's just keep these three so that we have the information we need for this analysis. Once we've pulled in our data, we've renamed it, then we can start to do some actual calculations. So in this example, I'm using a filter row step to say keep rows where delivered at is not blank, and just want to point out, this is meant to be really simple atomic steps that really mirror what you would do if you were to bullet out this process, what you do in Excel, right? You're filtering, you're building if-else logic, you're writing a formula to calculate the time between two dates. That's the type of thing that we're doing in this step here, where we're using a compare date step to say count the number of days between when a shipment was delivered and when that return was actually created, and let's name it days from return to delivery. Now we can see all those calculated values here on the right-hand side, and from there we can format our numbers, we can format our dates, and then actually action on this data. In the bottom branch here, we are building a mini reporting dashboard where we're just calculating the average number of days to delivery. If we wanted to supplement this with a graph or any other kind of more expansive dashboard, we of course could do that as well. And we also are triggering a Slack alert if this average does surpass a certain threshold. So first, we're using an average by group step to calculate the average, which we have here. And then we're using a filter step to say, hey, if this number is above 10, I want to send a Slack message. In this case, it's not above 10. But if it was, then we could go send that Slack message into any custom channel. We also could do a Teams message, an email, really however you'd like to consume that data. Now, beyond this specific example that we walked through here, jumping over to the Parabola Freight landing page, you'll also see that there are a whole bunch of different use cases that we can support. There is that returns analytics and trend reporting flow that we just looked at, which free template available if you're interested in using that flow. But you also can do things like trigger Slack messages for anomalies. You can calculate SLAs by bringing together Freight and 3PL data. Maybe you want to reconcile shipments between Freight and other platforms. In short, if you're doing something today manually in spreadsheets, or you're asking Freight, hey, is there some way to do this natively in your platform? Ultimately, you should be able to build that in Parabola without any engineering resources in a matter of hours. We're happy to help build these flows, answer any questions, so please reach out with any questions, and excited to hear what you think.